it's been a busy Wednesday here so far. It is, oh gosh, what time is it? It is about 1:20 in the afternoon. Big kids are down napping, and I am going to try to cook some dinner. We have church this evening, so we gotta get dinner done and get out the door pretty quickly. Tonight I am making a gumbo. So behind me I have my roux started because it takes a little while for the oil and the flour to cook. For the oil, you can use any kind of high smoke point oil that you want. I think the recipe was originally written for vegetable oil, but canola or whatever you have, or avocado oil, which is much healthier for you if you have that around. Any of those will work just fine. I'm gonna get things cooking on the stove. Behind me here, I have a sandwich loaf. Oh, I need to get a towel on that and cover it up so it doesn't dry out. I have a sandwich loaf going there just so I can maximize my time in the kitchen today. We need bread, we're out of bread. So let's get to work. For the pepper in this gumbo, I'm gonna be using some frozen poblanos that I froze last year. That's a little bit weird, but I've actually done that before because I froze a lot of poblanos last year, and it works just fine. So it'll work. And I would like to get those out of there. Maybe I'll get a fresh batch going in the freezer soon. Also for the celery, I now have pre-chopped frozen celery from Azure in the freezer, which is so nice. I've mentioned in hauls in the past that celery is one of those things that keeps us going back to the grocery store, and I've had a hard time having the presence of mind to freeze the celery before it goes bad. You know, you buy it and you just use a stalk, and then you tell yourself you're going to chop up the rest and freeze it, and then I just never would. So I just bought a big bag. I think it's a 5-pound bag of frozen celery. And so far I have no regrets. It's chopped pretty fine. I'll show it to you as soon as I'm done with this onion. Here is the Azure celery. So pretty fine dice. I mean, it's definitely more than just sliced. You know, it's chopped. So that's a win in my book. Now, this recipe calls for 1.5 cups of onions, and I did have to go to the store and buy onions. And they're a little bit littler, and so I thought maybe I could do with 2 onions in this recipe, but now that I'm at the end of chopping here, I think that I'm gonna leave this other half onion and just put it back in the fridge in a container. I think this will be plenty right here. For our sausage today, I'm going to be using this Thousand Island Andouille. I like it because it's regenerative, it's produced in the US, they're pasture raised. It's just good. I do know that sometimes buying regeneratively grazed or, you know, all that kind of meat can be really expensive. This is definitely an expensive product, and we only eat it maybe once a month if we have gumbo. I mean, that's pretty much what we eat it in, is gumbo. But I do also really value voting with our dollar. Our roux is to the point where I need to start keeping a bit of a closer eye on it. The heat on this just took off all of a sudden. It's one of those electric stoves, so it goes from barely hot to scorching. So I'm gonna turn it down just a bit because we really don't want this to have burnt tones. We just want it to be toasty. We're gonna start adding things. There's the celery. Here are my poblanos. The recipe calls for 3 tablespoons of garlic, so I'm going to throw in 3 garlic cups. Really grateful for this today. That would have taken a long time. Here comes the onion. I'm going to give this some time to cook down, and in the meantime, I'm going to gather my spices, and I am going to chop up the chicken that we're going to put in here. We just have some chicken breast that we grilled yesterday. It's just seasoned with salt and pepper, and of course the flavor from the grill. So I think it'll be a nice addition to this gumbo. I'm gonna make some room here for that chicken. I have more that I can add, but I probably don't need all of it. I'm gonna chop it pretty small just because that's my preference. I don't really like a big mouthful of chicken. Especially chicken breast, I'm just not a huge fan, but I do like it in the gumbo. All right, that will be more than enough. This is cooked down nicely. All the frozen garlic has broken up, and the garlic is fragrant now. I can smell it cooking in there. So I'm gonna start adding back all the meat and the broth. People are always so tidy, putting everything from their cutting board into their pot, and I feel like I always have stuff that just goes flying off to the side. So this is my dad's recipe, and he says that it should have 6 to 8 cups of stock in it. just depending on how thick you want your soup. I think this is as thin as I want to go. We are going to serve it over rice, but I don't want it much thinner than this. This is Cajun seasoning. The recipe formally says to only use this if you're not using andouille sausage, but I am going to use a little bit anyway. It is pretty spicy though, so maybe I'm doing about 3/4 of a tablespoon. And then this is filet powder. I'm going to use 2 tablespoons of this. This stuff was really hard to find. I kid you not. I looked in so many grocery stores here, and I don't live rural or anything. We have some really big name grocery stores here, and I could not find this. I had to order this in off Amazon, but it does come, this is a 4-ounce packet, and it's gonna last a while. All right, we're gonna let that simmer for a little while, and then we'll come back and we'll taste it. We'll see if it needs more Cajun seasoning or anything like that. I came downstairs to grab some rice. I think we're gonna do 2 cups. It's always nice to have leftover rice. Of course, I'm using a 3rd measure, so we're gonna do 6 scoops. It would be nice to keep rice in the kitchen, like in a gallon jar. We do that with a lot of things, but we honestly just don't have enough space up there, and it hasn't been so bad coming down here whenever we need something like rice. I cook my rice at a 1-to-2 ratio, so we're gonna do the 2 cups of rice with 4 cups of water. Here's the finished gumbo. It is delicious. It's meaty, full of flavor, and we will serve it over rice. I'm just gonna stick this lid back on and turn the heat off, and it will be nice and toasty when we're ready for it. And then here is our rice. Just gonna fluff that real quick. Put a lid on this too. Turn the heat off. Dinner will be ready for us in just a little bit. Here are the loaves of bread. They are shaped and they're gonna rise now. All our kitchen work is done.